I mean, I love that the surge happened. We were all wondering. We kept saying, oh, it's just a matter of time. He's going to get hot. We all know that. And it was just sort of a foregone conclusion. And it kept going, the slump, if you will. And then he got hot in the beginning of July. Then he gets hurt. So you have to account for that. As disappointing as the season has been, he came back. He was clearly not 100%. He was DHing, not playing in the field. But listen, that's your superstar. That's the guy you've committed to over the next decade. You're building around. He's still just 23 years old. So I think any success for him when he's been struggling like the way that he has been this season is huge. Does it carry over into next season? He went on an absolute tear last season, and then towards the end in September really fell off. So, as far as a carryover, I'm not sure how much we can rely on that, but I think it's just important. I think it's big to have him have a extended period of success. I mean, if we're being honest, there's really nothing that's different that's happening with the team. They still strike out a ton. They still really have a hard time scoring runs, and then sometimes they put up a whole bunch of runs. It's just kind of the same level of inconsistency we saw with Scott Service, which, I think I said on one of these videos, I didn't think Service was the problem. I still don't think he was the problem. Dan Wilson has the same resources to work with, meaning the players, the same guys who are going up and swinging and missing. Edgar has been working with the hitters all season long when they come home. So Edgar is not a new entity being inserted. Yeah, full-time hitting coach, certainly. That part has changed. But I don't think it was fair to Dan or Edgar to expect, hey, boom, they flipped a switch. Now this team's hitting. They've got a more disciplined approach at the plate. It's kind of been the same. It's very up and down. It's very, no pun intended, hit or miss. I think they both know what they're doing, but to expect a world of difference when you have the same limitations that you're working with as Scott Service had, I didn't think was really a fair expectation. Well, at first blush, I hate it, and here's why. The reason you're in a position to have to consider that, and I don't know how much they are actually talking about that, and that could be part of their plan moving forward, and it feels like it may be necessary, but the reason it's necessary is because of what you didn't do in the most recent off seasons, most specifically the off season after you made the playoffs. You made the playoffs. You had this town, this fan base invested. You had them excited. They could not wait for the next season. And you followed up that postseason run by bringing in A.J. Pollock, Colton Wong, Tommy La Stella, Cooper Hummel, Teoscar Hernandez. Loved that move at the time. Didn't work out the way you'd hoped. None of the other guys were even on the roster by the end of the season. It was a disaster. So you decided to go cheap. You decided to go, shop off the bottom shelf, if you will, and get guys that were past their prime or coming off bad years, and it burned you. And you did it again this offseason, not to the same level, because I think Garver and Polanco had a little more in the tank, even though they've really struggled beyond anybody's imagination. I felt better about them than I did Pollock and La Stella and people like that. But you kind of had the same approach. So the fact that you didn't capitalize on the momentum, you didn't want to open up the purse strings and really go after difference makers. Now you're put in a position where you may have to part with somebody, your rotation. And it's arguably the best 1 through 5 in all of baseball. And because of what you didn't do, now you're forced to at least consider trading an arm. I want to see the players that we look at as part of the core moving forward really find some consistency. And that starts with Julio, J.P. Crawford. It's been a bad year. It was a bad year for him before he got hurt. He gets thrown right back in the leadoff spot for some reason, and he's been struggling. I'd like to see him turn a corner, find some rhythm. Cal has been great. Cal has been a producer. Probably shouldn't be your third hitter, a guy with that average and on base, but because of the limitations of this offense, he's your best producer right now. So it makes sense why he's there, but it speaks to the limitations and the failings of this lineup. So anybody that you look at on this team as a core member moving forward, I'd like to see those guys find some sort of rhythm. Garver's going to be here because he's signed through next year. Polanco, I'm guessing we're seeing the final 20-plus games of his Mariner career. Haniger's going to be here. He's got a player option for next year. You got to see these guys find some kind of success heading into the offseason, so at least they can end a very disappointing season on an up note if it turns out to be a disappointment and they don't make the playoffs. I'm very hopeful. Do I believe they will? If we're going off how they've played over the past couple of months, doesn't feel likely. So I'd probably put it at a 5. Unfortunately, I hope to be wrong. Document this. If they make the playoffs, you can throw it back in my face, and I will wear it with pride.